I'm going to share with you a way to remember the word corresponding for corresponding angles. So that way when you see it or you're asked to identify it, you'll remember much faster what corresponding angles are. So here's what I do. When I look at the word corresponding, the very last word, ding, well, that reminds me of a sound, and that's the sound that a bell makes, like this. So corresponding angles, the ding makes a noise like a bell, and if I look at the word bell, it has two L's. So the word bell has two L's, and that's going to help me remember corresponding angles. So in your head, you should be thinking corresponding, ding is the sound of a bell, bell has two L's, and for corresponding angles, you need two lines in a transversal like I have here. Now, if I want to identify those corresponding angles, I remember this little story I created in my head, where the corresponding ding is the noise of a bell, bell has two L's, and I look for the L's in this picture. And if I look at this angle here, this looks like the letter L. And if I look at this angle here, that also looks like the letter L. And since both of these are my L's, I know that these are my corresponding angles. And this technique will work. Like, let's say you have a sheet of paper. I can take this and rotate my paper sideways, and I do the same exact technique. Corresponding angles, ding sounds like is the sound of a bell. A bell has two L's, so again I look for the L's in this position of my paper, and this here looks like a L. This also here looks like an L. Therefore these two are also corresponding angles. And then I can repeat it. I can rotate my paper once again, and I go through that same exact process. I look for the L's, and I can see that this is one L here, this one here is another one that looks like an L. Therefore these two angles here are corresponding angles. And then lastly, if I rotate my paper once more sideways, I can see that the L's would be here, and this one also looks like an L. So these two are my corresponding angles. And then if I rotate my paper back to the original starting point, I would have identified all my corresponding angles. And the corresponding angles I found were 2 and 6. Another pair was 1 and 5. The other pair was 3 and 7. And then lastly, my last pair of corresponding angles were 4 and 8. And that's how you identify corresponding angles.